So it was a big ship. I also mentioned the captain of the Cyclops because he was kind of a character, and he figures in a few of the theories about what happened to the Cyclops. His name was George Worley. He was German by birth and rumored to be pro-German. And did I mention this was during World War I?
I think you did, but
yeah.
I mean, you mentioned the year, but some of us don't like
automatically click in.
Yeah. Okay. So and Worley was not his original name, but more on that later. But as far as the Navy knew, he was George Worley, and he had been born in San Francisco at this point in time. They found out.
So their background checks were maybe not the best.
Not really. Okay. No. But Captain Worley was not well liked by his crew. He had some strange habits, apparently, like walking around in his long underwear, wearing a bowler hat, carrying a cane.
Is that not a thing that people like?
I guess people thought it was weird.
I guess I'll go put some clothes on. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I don't know if he did that all the time.
I have a feeling that the bowler hat long underwear instance was at one of the times that he was medicinally taking sherry in great quantities.
Yeah.
Medicinally taking sherry. I gotta get a prescription.
He did.
For that.
Actually, he defended himself once in court by saying, the crew get upset because I take sherry for medicinal reasons. Well, he was known for being drunk and disorderly.
Yeah, well, that's what the crew accused him of. But actually, he said in the hearing about this, he said that he had beriberi apparently previously, and he still had problems associated with that, and so he had to take a couple of different medicines to combat those problems.
Wait, this is spoilers. Wait, spoilers, because the crew disappeared forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, everybody disappeared.
Everybody disappeared forever. So, why? How did they do an interview with him?
This is previous. The voyage that the ship disappears on.
Yeah, this happened. This happened in August.
I was like, excuse me, spoilers. What do you mean he came back?
Yeah, they all came back from the dead. But
this is like that guy recently who got caught drunk driving a truck and said, no, I have that disease where my body metabolizes food as alcohol. Or I mean, that's the thing. People do have that.
There are people that have that.
But maybe, if you have that, maybe don't be a truck driver.
Yeah, that's it. That's not a good excuse.
Right? Yeah. It's similar to me.
That would be, I mean, in a way, that'd be a really cool disease to have, but at the same time, it would kind of interfere with things.
Yeah, it would.
But no, this guy, he was not liked by his crew at all.
No, he was not like, but anyway, back to the sherry. He didn't take the sherry for medicinal purposes, but apparently the stuff that he had to take for his symptoms was so foul that he had to mix it in with alcohol to make it more palatable. Mm-hmm. And so that's why. So that was his big excuse. Apparently that was enough to get him by.
But he still loved to chew people out.
Oh, yeah, he did. He liked to chew people out. He apparently sometimes got kind of violent. At the official board of inquiry in August 1917, 40 crewmen had signed a petition accusing him of being drunk, foul-mouthed, and unfit for command. They accused him of chasing an ensign named J.J. McCain around the boat with a pistol at one time. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So he was an interesting character. And this, of course, was sort of after the fact, after the disappearance. But the U.S. consul in Barbados, a guy named Charles Livingston, wrote a telegram to the State Department that there had been a, quote, disturbance, unquote, on the ship before it had arrived in Barbados, perhaps a mutiny, and he said that the men had been confined to quarters and that one had been executed. Although that's...
On the ship?
Well, it appears that there might have been a little confusion about that. They took on 5 prisoners in Rio.
Oh.
Yeah, and 3 of those had been accused of committing murder on another U.S. warship.
I see.
They were being taken back, and one of them was to be executed. He'd already apparently been convicted by a Navy board, I think, and so he was to be executed. So that might be where the confusion set in.
Well,
I don't think that Worley actually executed him.
No, I don't know that Worley executed anybody. But you and I, Joe, were talking about this earlier. Some stuff I had found was that this was not the first time that Worley had been in hot water, and there had been. If we're saying that this was would we call what was going on here? This was a complaint, not a mutiny, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there had evidently been a mutiny/complaint at sea, whatever you want to call it, and somebody had been beheaded under his command on the boat, and he was never fingered for being the one who committed the act, but it was believed that it was at his direction, whether that was directly saying cut his head off or indirectly. So, like, he really was kind of a tyrant, and people died under his command. He was he's a bit of a nutter.
Yeah, it sounds like. Although in his defense, he was in a tough position because he was running a big ship that had a crew of like 236, and almost everybody in his crew was young and inexperienced. I mean, because there was so much recruitment going on because of the war. Yeah,
they weren't regular Navy men, so I will give you that.
I can understand.
They were reservists who just suddenly got called up because of the war and shoved onto this boat.
And so, from Worley's point of view, he's an experienced captain, and everybody under him is kind of inexperienced and incompetent. I mean, I can imagine his frustration.
Yeah.
At some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's also plausible that the crews that he would have been used to working with would have been used to taking orders. And maybe if you're just kind of a young reserve guy, you're not so used to that, and so when your captain says do this and you're like, I don't know, he's kind of a jerk, versus like, yes sir, well, whatever sir. You see that in jobs too sometimes.
Well, and if you're hauling you're a coal ship, all you do is run around and haul coal. That is a wet, dirty, cruddy, unforgiving job.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
tensions
that
are
cool.
going to run high.
Not the most glamorous job in the Navy, although on the plus side, you're not right in the heat of battle all the time.
That's true.
So
there's a benefit right there.
I mean, you're still in a little bit of danger because obviously you're a viable target. Somebody might just decide to sink you because obviously if you deprive the battleships of their coal, then hey, that accomplishes something right there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's get back to our story. Let's talk about their final mission. And of course, it wasn't supposed to be their final mission. It just turned out that way. It was to leave the Chesapeake Bay, go to the South Atlantic, to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to fuel British warships. And the plan was that they would pick up a load of manganese ore to take back to the United States.
Sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. They left Rio, apparently. There's a little bit of confusion about this, whether they picked it up in Rio or they picked it up in Bahia, Brazil. Most of the things that I see say they picked it up in Rio. 11,000 tons, which, by the way, is more than the ship was designed to carry.
They're carrying a higher load than rated for.
Yeah.
What were they? How much more?
I have heard anywhere between 8,000 and 9,600.
So a fair amount more.
Yeah. 9,600 tons, and so they're well over.
So that's anywhere from 10 to 20% more than they were supposed to.
Yeah. We're not talking. Yeah, we're not talking like just a mere 100 tons. More.
Yeah, not a couple shovelfuls too much.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Substantial amount. Also, they took on 73 passengers who were sailors and Marines from the South Seas,
who are also equivalent to about 100 tons.
Yeah, when you think about all those guys and all the extra food and water that you're gonna have to feed them with,
so they're pretty
that
overburdened.
added some weight, Then they sailed to Bahia, Brazil, and I'm not sure why they went there, but they went there.
Because why wouldn't you?
Why would you?
You're on a boat with a lot of dudes. Fleet Week's a thing. I'm just saying. It's a thing.
I got to find out if that Martin Mull. So you ever heard Men by Martin Mull?
Nope.
So they departed for Baltimore February 22nd, 1918. And by the way, the starboard engine was out. They had a cracked cylinder head,
which meant that when you only have one screw, that's going to greatly reduce your speed. And it was only able to do 230 miles a day. I think that equates. It was like 235 miles a day.
Yeah. So
and that wasn't something that could have been fixed in Brazil.
Apparently, they looked at it there, and they decided that it should go back. Cyclops should go back to the U.S. to be repaired.
I believe it was a cracked piston. Is that
I've heard it's a cracked cylinder. I've heard it was a cracked manifold, or not manifold.
So maybe something that they needed
head.
to be in dry dock for.
Yeah.
And that you'd have to offload all of the
You wouldn't just weld it together. They probably bring in a whole new piece.
I don't know that it required actual engine replacement. I mean, it's possible if it's just like a cylinder head, they might have just been able to replace it without even dry docking it. But I don't know.
But I doubt that they had that custom part.
They probably didn't
Rio.
have it, and it might well have been too that the Navy was in a hurry to get their manganese,
which is also fair.
And so they decided rather than waiting, we'll just send them to sea with one engine only. Which I don't think is always a great idea, personally.
No, it's a terrible idea.
Didn't work out. Let's see. It didn't work out for the Surcouf. It didn't work out for the Joyita.
I think historically it has just not worked out for anybody, really.
It really doesn't always work out.
More often than not, it doesn't work.
Yeah. The Cyclops made an unscheduled stopover in Bridgetown, Barbados. Again, I mentioned Charles Livingston, the consul, before.
Consul General, maybe?
Consul General, yeah. In Barbados. Worsley told him that he needed 600 tons of coal, and he also needed more supplies.
Wait. Sorry, weren't they transporting things that fueled boats?
Yeah, they transported coal down, and they offloaded on other ships.
And they didn't have any. Okay,
yeah,
right. They had just war.
Presumably, they kept a little in reserve for their own engines.
They should have.
Yeah, because they also. But he apparently.
Which is weird, also, because they were only feeding. They were feeding half the engines they would have normally been feeding, right? So it seems like they would have extra.
Yeah, I know. Livingston was suspicious about that because he thought that they should have.
Well, how many? Do you know?
Enough.
I didn't look this up, Joe. How many boilers did this ship have? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm sure at least 2, if not 4.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I never saw that in any of the stuff.
No, I never did either.
I mean, still, they shouldn't have. You would think they would not. Devin brings up a great point. You wouldn't burn but half of what you normally do. Even if you're running that boiler at full tilt, you wouldn't be burning the normal daily amount.
Probably not. I don't know. I mean, it might be that you can run all the boilers and just direct all that energy to one engine and get extra poop out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that that one screw can take that much torque. I don't know.
Yeah, but so Livingston was suspicious, and I don't know if he was suspicious at the time or if this is just in retrospect
But
after the
at some
disappearance.
point, he
I'm gonna guess
was
retrospect.
suspicious.
Yeah. But they took on like a ton of meat, a ton of flour, half a ton of vegetables.
So they are just continually adding more and more weight.
Well,
Yeah.
presumably, though, if they're taking on all of that stuff, that means that they're out of a lot of that stuff, right? They've used a lot of that.
Presumably.
They're replacing.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Presumably, but maybe not.
Ostensibly.
I'll talk a little bit more about Charles Livingston and his suspicions in a bit here.
Okie doke.
Yeah, okay. Okay, as I said before, the Cyclops departed Bridgetown on March 4th with 306 crewmen, officers, and passengers. And just for you nitpickers out there, I know this number varies among different accounts. Some people have it at 309.
Well, you see it swing 20 people in either direction, ballpark.
Yeah.
It's all over
It's
the
also
map.
possible they just don't know for sure.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they left with a whole bunch of people, over 300 people, and it was never seen again. The last contact was the Cyclops made radio contact, according to one source that I found, with a passenger liner called the Vestris on March 5th. They reported good weather.
That's a day later.
That's a day later, and that was the last anybody heard of the Cyclops. Although it's possible it's been seen since then, because in 1968, a Navy...
Well, Joe, there was actually one other supposed sighting
Oh,
of it
yeah.
not too long after that.
Yeah, you're talking about the molasses tanker?
Yeah.
Yeah. That appears to not be true, though.
No,
Molasses tanker.
A molasses tanker.
it was
Was it-
obviously Canadian.
I was going to say, was it slow?
Yeah. Slow, very slow.
No, there was a ship that said that it saw it off of the northeastern U.S. coast.
And it was a Canadian molasses
But
tanker.
there's no way that it could have made it there in enough time.
I guess I didn't
I
realize
want to make
that-
sure that we're covering all our bases of that's not the only report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a
I
lot
was
of...
just going to keep making fun
I
of
know, that's why I
molasses tanker.
didn't
I'm sorry.
stop.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it was slow going.
yeah, it's called the Amolco.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I
Got it
knew
out,
the
you guys.
Canadian joke was going to come.
I guess I just didn't realize that there was such a demand that they had to put tankers full of molasses to float them down the river and sea.
I kind of like the idea.
I do too.
I think it's kind of cool.
Really do.
It's the tanker of molasses heading to the tanker of flapjacks.
Oh my god! No.
It's kind of like that how peanut butter cups got invented, you know. I mean, so there's a guy in a car with this scarfing peanut butter. There's a guy speeding along
Yes,
in another
we've seen
car
the Family
scarfing down.
Guy.
Yeah.
We're way
And then there's a policeman standing at the bloody wreckage, and he reaches in there and tastes it, and it's like, wow, this is awesome.
bang, bang.
Yeah. Okay. Where was I?
I have no idea.
Yeah. But it may have been seen, actually, in 1968. A Navy diver named Dean Hawes was diving about 40 nautical miles northeast of Cape Charles, And this was actually during the search for the scorpions, which I've mentioned. So Cape Charles, for those of you who don't know, if you know what the Chesapeake Bay is, you can Google that. Which in Baltimore is on the Chesapeake Bay, way up in the north end of the bay. And there's this long peninsula that's part Maryland, part Delaware, part Virginia.
The bay is kind of V-shaped and
Yeah, it's
widens
long.
as it heads south.
Yeah, but anyway, this peninsula is called Delmarva, and because my brother used to live in Maryland, so we took a little tour of Delmarva. It's kind of interesting, actually. But anyway, at the very, very tip of that peninsula, just northeast of Norfolk, Virginia, that is Cape Charles.
Okay.
So it was 40 nautical miles northeast. So they missed their target by a little bit.
If what we're about to talk about is right.
Yeah. If it was indeed the Cyclops. Back to our diver, Dean Hawes. He was diving at about 180 feet of water, and he found this wreck of a really strange ship. And he went down and he actually stood on the bow of the ship and looked at it. The bridge of the ship was raised up on steel stilts, and it had this strange superstructure, which was described in a 1973 newspaper article as, quote, upright beams running its length resembling the skeleton of a skyscraper, unquote. Which really, if any of you have looked at the picture of the Cyclops, I didn't, by the way, talk about how weird the Cyclops looked.
No,
we didn't.
We didn't really talk
we
about
were falling down on the job here.
Yeah, we kind of are, yeah.
Because it did look real weird.
It did, and if you got this off of our website or whatever, you've seen the picture, so you know how weird it looks, or looked.
Well, let's give him that in a sec.
Okay.
Finish about this diver guy though. It's interesting.
Well, yeah. So Dean Hawes didn't know what he was looking at the time, but like some years later, like 5 years later or something like that, he read an article about it in a magazine, and there was a picture of the Cyclops in there. When he saw the picture, he was like, "Oh wow, that's the boat, or that's the ship, I guess, that I saw in the Atlantic." And so he went to the Navy with his suspicions, and eventually in 1973 he convinced them to reopen the search. And they did do some searching, but they didn't find the wreckage. So sorry. But
Boo.
yeah, I know. And he eventually teamed up with Clive Cussler. I think this was 1983. And you know who Clive Cussler is?
Yeah.
If you don't know who Clive Cussler is, he writes these sort of adventure, kind of pulpy novels. Mm-hmm. He had a recurring character named Dirk Pitt. I love that name, Dirk Pitt. And I've read actually 2 of his books, and actually I thought that they were, even though they were pretty absurd, they were actually fun.
Well,
I
that's
see
why he's been writing for as long as he's been writing.
Yeah, no, I see why he's got a best-selling fan base, because his stuff is fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of authors out there like that.
Yeah. So it's totally unbelievable, but still a lot of fun. So,
Coons.
Yeah.
Primary candidate.
Yeah, Coons. Yeah.
Kind of
Sue
fun.
Grafton. Also, with the ABC murders.
Yeah.
Like great beach reads.
Yeah.
But anyway, we never explained the structure of this ship.
Yeah, what this ship.
Just let me finish up with Clive Cussler.
I didn't realize we were done. Sorry.
Clive Cussler, besides writing this stuff, he is really interested in a lot of his stuff is sort of ocean based, and he's really interested in finding wrecks. And he actually found the Hundley, which you guys know what the Hundley is, right?
That one doesn't ring a bell.
The Hundley was a submarine built by the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm. And yes!
Yeah.
I do remember this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Hundley. Yeah, so it was most notably the most thing it was good at killing was its own crew. but the Hundley was basically the first, or at least one of the first submarines. And
it really was just a ship with a structure built around the top of it that sank a couple of feet below the water. Wasn't
you're thinking about like the Monitor or the Merrimack.
That might be it.
Yeah. The Hundley was a little different. It was actually cylindrical with tapered ends.
Oh, okay.
And
kind of looks like a folded piece of paper.
Yeah, and it's like and it had I can't remember how many crew. I think half a dozen. And basically they sat inside this tube and just cranked these cranks to turn the screw. And then at the front of it.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah. At the front of it there was the torpedo. A torpedo turned out was not a great design because it was a long pole with a big powder charge, black powder charge on the end of it. And so they would run up to a ship and ram the ship, and the charge would go off. And then,
they'd be stuck.
But then they would be stuck to the ship, and they would go down with the ship. So it didn't really work out that well.
And it was, I mean, there's pictures, right, where it's like a dude standing next to it, you know, and it's smaller than he is.
Yeah.
It's not a huge design.
It's a very small vessel.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even get into something like that. You know, I mean, I would, the claustrophobia would overwhelm
it'd be
me.
bad.
You know, and much less go underwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no way. But anyway, that's...
So he found that, though.
Yeah, he
or
did.
helped find that.
Yeah, he did. He was part of the effort to find that, which is pretty cool.
Now, do we want to talk about the ship?
Oh yeah, let's get back to talking about the ship. So, to facilitate loading coal on other ships, they had this superstructure that was basically a lot of. It was kind of like a box, like a skeletonized box. There were like vertical steel posts on either side, and then cross members. And then they had these cranes that could either move it by bags of coal, or else they could scoop coal out and dump it into the holds of other ships with these cranes. And so they had like a whole bunch of cranes on this thing. And
So was this I know that the Cyclops was a collier. Was this the standard design, or was this a kind of a new design? I don't know enough about this line of vessels to even to guess.
yeah, I to tell you the truth, I don't know how many colliers were built with this particular design.
Okay, not much, but I'd never heard of anything that was this way. So that's why I was wondering if it was unique, if the class was unique that way.
I don't know how unique this class was, to be honest with you. It's
Okay.
something I should have checked on, actually.
It's hard to say, but
Yeah.
okay, yeah, no.
Sorry,
So it's got a whole bunch
listeners.
of uprights.
Yeah, it's got this whole big
That are locked
superstructure. Yeah, this whole big, huge superstructure that's like the framework of a building almost. And then
Yeah.
they've got all these cranes and stuff to move coal back and forth. And actually, that's considered. Well, we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far ahead. I just
Yeah.
knew we needed to explain that, and we screwed up and didn't.
Yeah, yeah. I did mention, of course, that a guy named Donald Fraser did find what looked like the wreckage of a lifeboat from the USS Cyclo. Has nothing to do with ours. But that's it. I mean, that's possible if this guy was telling the truth. But he also said that he spotted the sunken hull of a ship about 2,000 yards away. And this was on Gun Key in
the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas. Yeah.
Not exactly.
Yeah, and so the sunken hull of a ship about 2,000 yards off of the key. And I'm not sure what to make of this, because this would be way far off of the Cyclops' course.
Well, that, and I was going to ask, did he spot this ship below or above water?
Under the water.
Was he above or below water when he spotted it?
He was above. He was in a boat.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what to make of that.
I would imagine that it would have been spotted again since then if he...
Well, yeah, and it's not there now.
Yeah.
It would have had to have been in pretty shallow water for him to spot it.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, and
if he was diving, I could see where he could have made a significant depth, and that's why nobody had noticed it.
Yeah, and apparently, they went back when they went back and looked. I don't know if the Navy went back and looked or whoever did, but it wasn't there anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, shipwrecks don't just move, right?
No.
Not really. No.
They don't.
No.
Yeah, no, they're kind of.
Yeah.
They go and they plunk themselves down in the sand, and they're pretty much
They
there.
kind of build roots.
It'll take something pretty enormous to uproot those things and move them.
This
Like
was
an
in
octopus?
this was in the 20s, right?
This was in February 1920.
I was going to say most of the Ks or keys, depending on if you're in the Bahamas or the United States, are now owned by cruise ships, by cruise liners. They're all owned.
Oh,
they're
are
all
they?
private. Yeah, most of those Ks
did not
are.
know that.
The ones in between, like the main islands of the Bahamas and Miami, because they're good stop points.
Oh, yeah.
On the way back.
That makes sense.
That
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
in looking up Gun K, it looks like it's probably owned by. It looks like it'd be one of those islands that's probably owned by something else. But in the 1920s, it probably wasn't. But I was gonna say if it was more recent, that seems like the sort of thing that a cruise ship company would haul away pretty quick.
That would kind of get in the way.
20s, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So never mind.
Yeah.
My point is moot.
Okay. Oh, where were we? So that's about the end of the story, really. Now it's time for the theories.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, these are all theories which have been floated either at the time or since. And there's quite a few of them, actually.
There's a whole bunch here.
Yeah, there really is. Okay, our first theory is that it was an octopod. Doctor Who, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, he discovered that the Cyclops had been attacked by an octopod whose spacecraft had crashed in the Bermuda Triangle.
Wasn't this the one that was the... Oh, no, that was the pirate ship one.
Yeah.
There have been
There's
some
a ton of nautical ones.
weird
they've done.
nautical ones, yeah. And I am
yeah.
ashamed as a Whovian to admit that I actually don't know what episode Joe's talking about.
No, actually, I don't know either. I just stumbled across this
I
on the
know,
internet.
but you also don't love Doctor Who like I do.
Oh, I love Doctor Who. I just haven't watched it nearly as comprehensively as you have. But I still like Doctor Who. It's awesome. But and I got to get back into watching Doctor Who. Actually.
Well, you picked the wrong time. But
Yeah, really. I know, because of Netflix and all
Yeah.
that. Damn them. I know.
Okay, probably
anyway,
not that though.
so-
I mean, either Doctor Who wouldn't lie about it, but
of
it turns
course
out
not.
I don't know if you guys know this or not. I know this is blaspheme, but Doctor Who's not real.
What?
Don't tell anyone.
Oh.
Can you hear them yelling at us?
Oh.
What's the next one, Joe?
We're going to be responsible for a lot of broken iPods. Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to say the mystery is solved because Doctor Who's never wrong.
No,
Okay,
can't be,
fine.
sorry.
Let me go to the next one. Somebody actually put out an account claiming this was true. A giant octopus. There's,
You know, at the time that this happened, giant octopuses were responsible for everything.
oh yeah.
On the flip side, there are such a thing as giant octopuses.
There are, but every ship that went down was taken down by a giant octopus who was angry for some reason.
And actually, by the way, although giant octopi do exist, I don't know that there's anything that could take down this ship.
Yeah.
And I
From
can't imagine
underneath
it.
like that?
Yeah.
Just
no.
by grabbing it and sinking?
I don't know. If it was severely overburdened already, it probably wouldn't take a
Yeah,
lot.
that's true.
You know?
That's true. The old octopus just takes
throw
one.
one tentacle up
Yeah. And just pull
and
it
it just
down.
pulls it over.
Yeah.
You know?
Everybody who's not in the studio, Devin just mimicked the sucker motion of an octopus.
I made the noise,
grabbing
too.
something and pulling it.
I made
Yeah.
the noise too.
Well, they
And
didn't, they didn't see what was happening. They don't
They
know
knew.
this.
They
Hey,
have
I-
good imagination.
Yeah, well, the octopus probably didn't actually even care if he sunk the ship or not. He probably just wanted to turn it upside down and shake it so all the goodies would fall out and into his mouth. You know? Yeah, num.
It's beat.
So should we go to some...
Oh yeah, but anyway, this did appear in a magazine called Literary Digest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Why not?
Our next theory, it was the Bermuda Triangle.
No.
No, you don't
Next.
like that? Okay. Actually,
Can we talk about that for a
I-
sec?
Do you want to?
I was actually heavily investigating this angle until I got a threatening note from the Bermuda Triangle. And
I was just going to say that it cracks me up, all of the coverage that the Bermuda Triangle gets when, A, it's actually not a defined space, and B, it is just a clever use of statistics. In other
Yeah.
words,
You're the one. Shut up. It's a real thing.
yeah, God damn it! I
sorry.
have seen
I'm sorry.
I have seen maps of the Bermuda Triangle, dude.
Okay?
Yeah.
The
No,
Bermuda Triangle's a real thing.
it just cracks me up that all of the reported sinkings and downings, and yet the number of things that go through that area are never talked about.
Well, that's
so
it.
the math comes out to not that amazing.
Yeah.
No, it's a pretty
You're
high.
right.
It's a high traffic area.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So
Think of all the cruise ships that are running on the power cords.
Yeah?
How do
Oh,
they
yeah.
not get those tangled up?
Well, listen, it's very complex. Okay.
yeah.
It's a system of buoys. I can't explain it to you as
It's
like somebody
classified.
who's it's very classified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My memory, I think, was wiped. Probably. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember that 9 months of my life very well.
What else is up here?
Oh, what are we looking at for methane gas pockets? And this theory has been floated for a while now.
Ha!
Yeah, ha ha. But apparently there are big pockets of methane gas in the seafloor. So
We
sometimes
talked about this in a different episode, didn't we?
I think we did, but I can't remember which one.
Can't either.
It would have been.
Yeah, the one.
I think it was the Alrang Medan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which now
Right.
obviously wasn't right, but
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay. So the orang.
I thought you were going to say more things. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so if you just happen to be sailing over that exact patch of water, well, it's kind of bad luck for you. Apparently the density of the water drops so much that your ship loses buoyancy, and you just drop like a rock, and down you go. And this has actually been confirmed in tests. Some researchers actually built or required a large ship model, put it in a tank, released a bunch of methane underneath it, and it did go down.
What changes the displacement is what it changes.
Well, it changes the buoyancy, or excuse me, the density of the water becomes so much less that it's essentially you don't have enough buoyancy, to
right.
float in it.
You have to be much wider to keep afloat.
So the theory that it could sink a ship has been proven, but has the theory that methane bubbles of this size actually exist and erupt in the sea frequently? Has that been?
That has never been established.
Okay.
Nobody's ever actually recorded any actual incidents of a ship
So it
going
is a
down.
theory, like, okay, the methane gas bubbles burst in the ocean, presumably, but we don't have any records of it because, well, guess what? If we did have a record of it, that ship wouldn't have sunk and
Well,
have a record.
it probably happens on a frequent basis, but they're not large enough. That's the thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all in the size.
Yeah.
Not the matter that it's happening or when it's happening, but it's in the concentration.
Although I guess
there.
it wouldn't have to be that big. I mean, really all you need is a smallish pocket, something that's a fourth of the size of your ship. If your ship is overburdened already, the front of it loses buoyancy, you're probably going to go
you
down.
Start taking on water. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
So it wouldn't have to be that it was as large as the ship, right?
But that's still a huge pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
It would be a lot of methane to be suddenly burping up from the seafloor.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm going back and forth on this one.
I kind of like the idea of it though. It's like not only are you losing buoyancy, but somebody on the bridge and is just lighting a cigarette at that exact moment. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Puts it out quite quickly.
So you burn in sync. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
right.
someone's like smelling around, like, who farted?
Yeah.
And why are we sinking?
Gross.
Yeah. That's what methane is.
But that's a good theory, but it is it's partially proven, right? It could happen, but also we don't think that methane probably is.
Probably not.
Okay.
It's been proven in theory that it could happen, but again, it just doesn't appear to have ever actually happened in real life. But who knows? I mean,
but we wouldn't have proof of it.
We wouldn't have proof, because the ship just disappeared.
Yeah.
Although generally speaking, when ships go down, it's usually because of things like bad luck, bad weather, human error, more things like that.
Especially when they go down that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, our next theory, I've seen this one out there, and this theory is that the manganese ore in the hold was unstable and it exploded.
What?
Well, according to my research, manganese is actually pretty stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know who the hell came up with this one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what do you guys have any thoughts on that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, dumb. Okay.
Looking at this page of theories ahead of us, no.
Yeah, there's better ones out there.
If we needed to pad this episode, I could come up with some stuff, but right
we
now,
don't pad episodes.
No, we're not padding it.
You're right.
I just didn't want to cheat our listeners. I found every last possible
You sure
theory.
did, yeah.
And people have put forth a lot of theories about this. They really have. Our next one, a boiler explosion took out the radio room and set the ship on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, except the boilers would have been in the back of the ship, near the stern, and I can't imagine why the radio room would have been back in the stern of the ship and not up near the bridge or even next to the bridge.
So in a way, I could see there being some viability to this theory.
Yeah.
Though I don't see it working on its own. There's some stuff that we're going to talk about a little farther along that I think could have happened in conjunction or exacerbated the problem if the boiler had gone.
You mean to say exacerbated?
Yeah, that word.
Yeah.
If the boiler had gone and exploded and caused structural damage, that would have, then just set off a chain reaction of problems. But I don't think that if it was in a ship that was in perfect health and a boiler had blown, no, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, the thing about this ship is that the Cyclops apparently reportedly had some problems.
It did.
But it was still a relatively young ship. And I don't think the boilers were actually...
I don't think the boilers would have been the problem.
I think the boilers were in perfectly good shape.
Yeah.
It was
it's
never...
also... I guess it's also hard to tell where your satellites are.
You mean your antennas?
Or your antennas, sorry.
Yeah.
Not satellites. But, when looking at the ship, there's so much structure there. I can't tell even if the radio